What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. I am your host, Justin Harold, and with me, as always, my co-host, Jeff Santa. Today, we're going to talk to you guys a little bit about our expectations for the Cleveland Browns this season. Not really a rundown of the schedule, but more of a general kind of the end of the season talk, which is, I know, a little out of the norm. However, I do want to shout out 92.3 The Fan for giving me this idea, mainly because I listened to one of the hosts, I'm not sure who it was, make a point that he thinks that anything outside of the Cleveland Browns making it to the AFC Championship game is a big issue, big problem, a disappointment to say for the season. And so I thought that was a unique take. And I thought because of what his other hosts were saying and what fans were calling in, saying that that's not true, that's not really fair, that me and Jeff would give our own little spin on it, see how we were feeling on it. But with that being said, Jeff, how are you feeling? What are you feeling about this topic?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling similar to, maybe another video that we've recorded that I once again think it's interesting that how we feel about this. I think that I'm not surprised that we agree, but I think this is a good topic. And when there's not a whole lot going on as far as news coming out, we're in that weird stale period of Browns football. Unfortunately, I wish we weren't, but 90 some days toward the to the first game of the year. So we're patiently waiting. We're just making sure we're bringing you guys high quality content, and the quality is going to get higher. Trust me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that being said, you know, going to what this host said, and again, I'm sorry, it was early in the morning. I was grabbing food on my way to work, and so wasn't really paying attention to who it was. But the point being, the Cleveland Browns, towards the end of the season, get to the playoffs, and this is what we're going to be focusing on primarily. Doesn't matter what your record is, doesn't matter what record we have, as long as we're in the playoffs. For now, that's what we'll talk about. You know, are you winning 1 to 2 games to make it to that AFC Championship game? A game that we were, a singular game away from last year. And so for me, I thought this was the correct take. I thought that this is, at this point, you have a top 5 roster with the Cleveland Browns. It might not play like that for the first, 8 weeks, halfway through the season. But in reality, you look top to bottom. I think we're even more paper champions than we were a couple of years ago when people were saying that. So, for me, obviously, you lose to the team that went to the Super Bowl this year, and you're in a division where you're probably going to face the Baltimore Ravens, who are likely to be in the playoffs and likely to be one of those teams that gives us a run for our money. And then you have the Buffalo Bills, Indianapolis Colts, and the Tennessee Titans. So, Jeff, my question for you is, and it's 2 questions. Do you follow the same thought process that I am, that the AFC Championship game is what you have to make for this season to be a success? And 2, what teams out there outside of Kansas City are you really afraid of in the playoffs? And sorry, let me preference this also before you get started. Well, let's also note that addition of Julio Jones to the Tennessee Titans, a big move that happened for a potential team that could frighten people for reasons. So that being said, continue. I'm sorry.
So, as we saw in the playoffs last year, of course, we catch a big stroke of luck with Patrick Mahomes being very banged up in that game where we played Kansas City. But even before Patrick Mahomes was hurt, you have, your Hollywood Higgins fumble on the goal line for an illegal hit, by the way. So, and that's pretty much the difference in the game. Besides the fact that Patrick Mahomes didn't play the whole game, yes, but you're basically in the AFC Championship game last year. If the refs, if the ref makes a good call, we might be in the AFC Championship last year. So it sounds harsh, but I totally agree that we should be in the AFC Championship game this year. I think we should be in the Super Bowl this year. That's really just my opinion. I think that we're way better than our roster is way better than we were last year. But with that being said, I don't think it's necessarily easier. It might be harder. The AFC in general might have more competition next year. Of course, you have Julio Jones moving over. I think if you're not a Titans fan, you almost look at that as the offensive, the offensive counterpart of the Browns signing Jadeveon Clowney. If he plays 16 games, they're going to be really nasty. If he's hurt, as we saw him last year and even 2 seasons ago, I don't think he was fully healthy. I don't think he's caught double-digit touchdowns in the last 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Definitely the last 2. But he's had other players over there, but he's really not even the wide receiver 1 over there. That sounds, a little bit weird to say, but I still think AJ Brown's probably the wide receiver 1 over there. Derrick Henry, he takes a lot away from the passing game. Obviously, he's probably the top back in football. But I'm really not too concerned about Tennessee. I think we played them great last year, and I think our defense is better this year. So Tennessee doesn't scare me, believe it or not. Hopefully I'm not eating my words there. Pittsburgh scares me because a lot of people are counting them out. Pittsburgh probably will always scare me until they have a losing season. They're going to scare me. That might be until Mike Tomlin retires. They might be a competitor in the AFC, which that's fine. The Ravens are going to be the Ravens. I think the Ravens are as advertised. Their offense might be a little bit better.
Yeah.
I'm not too concerned about the Ravens offensive line. I think they are trying to piecemeal it together with some older guys. The Chiefs are the front runners, of course. I don't think they've gotten any better, though. Not substantially, not as much of a leap as the Browns have taken. Here's my sleeper. I would be nervous, and I'm going to say this with a big asterisk. If I'm seeing close to really great and even elite football from Tua Tagovailoa 8 weeks through the season, I'm a little bit nervous about Miami. I think they've made similar leaps that we have. Yes, I think Miami's underrated, and I think they're going to fly under the radar and definitely be in the playoffs.
That's a hot take. I'm going to give you that one. I'm going to say that's a hot take because I am probably one of the people on the opposite side of the table on Tua Tagovailoa.
Now if Tua's that's what I'm saying. If Tua sucks, sucks, but if Tua's not the guy, then I'm not worried about them. But if he's doing Kyler Murray stuff 8 weeks through the season, I'm going to really consider them as a contender.
Yeah. I mean, they were I believe they were 1 game away from being a wild card as we were. So I absolutely can agree with that. I think my biggest fears are obviously challenge wise. Obviously, we're not going to talk about the Chiefs because the Chiefs are the Chiefs. They will remain that way until something blows up over there. I think Baltimore is obviously the team that, we couldn't pick up a win over them last year at home or away, but we were very close in that second game. I think obviously their offense, has gotten better. I think we'll see at least their wide receiving core has gotten better. Their offensive line, like you said, has been pieced together slightly. But defense, they still got great backfield back there. We'll see about some of the pieces that they picked up. The Steelers are not really worried about. Don't think they make the playoffs. I think they're fighting for third place in our division. The Colts are interesting because the Colts have a very great defense. Carson Wentz, if Carson Wentz booms like he did the year that they won the Super Bowl, and unfortunately he got hurt, the quarterback's coach. Scary. Yeah, they could be. I think people are sleeping on the Carson Wentz move there. I honestly thought it was the obvious move for Indianapolis as soon as Phillip Rivers retired. I think Carson's probably going to boom more likely than not. I could be wrong. It would be funny if I was wrong, to be honest with you. But, the one team that we're not talking about is the team that did make it to the AFC Championship game last year, and that's the Bills. I'm surprised that it's weird to think about. For some reason, I'm not high on the Bills. I think that obviously Josh Allen had a very great year, a better year than I ever thought he would have. Obviously, Stephon Diggs, I think a top 5 wide receiver, helps that case very much. So don't really know what they did in the offseason, to be honest with you. I'll have to go.
That's why I didn't comment really. I don't remember who they drafted and I don't remember who they signed because I thought their defense was good enough last year.
Right.
But me being a homer, I think the Browns defense is better. I kind of forget about the Bills. I forget how sneaky good they are. Their offense is very good, but I think the Browns match up good against them. They have no running game and we're going to have one of the better running games in the league.
I think honestly that, and this could be a hot take in itself, that the Bills had a one-off season where they were just lights out. Maybe. Josh Allen was lights out. Obviously could be wrong about that.
They got good coaching over there too, though.
They do have good coaching.
They'll be good.
Yeah. Whether they're as good as last year, we'll see. But, for me, this season, and this is how it always plays out in the playoffs, going into the playoffs, is who's the healthiest team and who can
Mm-hmm.
stay the healthiest team
Mm-hmm.
throughout the playoffs. Obviously, we had COVID problems. We didn't play our first playoff game with our head coach.
Yep.
We had guys coming back from COVID who didn't play in that first game, in that first playoff game that we had not been in 20 some years. So 10 plus years, sorry. You know, it's knock on wood. No one's hurt during no one is of mass importance is hurt coming into the playoffs and throughout the playoffs. And
Let's just get through training camp healthy, honestly.
absolutely,
Couldn't get through
absolutely.
training camp healthy last year.
Yeah, missed a lot of significant pieces from last year that we are seeing back at OTAs this year. But, barring anything catastrophic happening, I think Browns fans, you do need to start upping your standards. This is going to be a shout out to all of you. You do need to pick up your standards. Your team does have a top 3, top 5 roster. So you no longer can play down, well, there's always next year. We're done with that. We're very much done with that.
Yep.
And with all of this being said, let's say that we don't make it to the AFC Championship game. Then there are questions to be asked. The one big question that I'm sure Jeff will love to ask is, does Baker Mayfield deserve a contract extension?
That would be the only benefit, to be honest with you. The only upside, which it might be a big upside because, I mean, depending on how you view Baker Mayfield, the only upside to say we get bounced in the first round, Baker's not getting a huge extension. I guess he could if he plays really well and we just happen to get beat in the first round of the playoffs, maybe. But if we don't make the playoffs or if we get bounced in the first round, we're not signing him to a big deal. So if we want to get him for cheap, that's going to be the only silver lining of not, exceeding expectations.
There's a conversation that I've just realized that could be had with the playoffs and with the 3 quarterbacks that we've talked about, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Baker Mayfield. None of them have gotten their contract extensions.
Yep.
Whoever makes it further into the playoffs could probably be seeing, the biggest contract out of all of them. However, the second question that I'm thinking of is, does Kevin Stefanski need to finally give up offensive play calling to Alex Van Pelt? Maybe he starts managing too much and should, give up some roles. That's the second question I could think of. And I believe the third question is, how many guys are going to get the axe in terms of not just Baker Mayfield, but guys like Denzel Ward, Nick Chubb, Wyatt Teller, guys that need extensions, and also all the guys that we've signed to 1-year deals. So, a lot of questions that could arise if we don't make it to the AFC Championship game.
And that's why, obviously in a perfect world, I can't disagree with you that you'd like to have continued success and longevity. You want to build a dynasty, but we've only been a competently run organization for 1 year.
True.
So that's been nice, but it's not like we're in a position. Yeah, year and a half, but it's not like we're in a position to even talk about legacy or dynasty as far as I'm considered, because, and this sounds really bad, but if you don't win it this year, we might be screwed. If you don't go and win it all this year, that's why I want to bring everyone on board. And like you said, I hope everyone's healthy, but you got Baker questions, Nick Chubb questions, Denzel Ward questions. It's a Ronnie Harrison contract year. You got Wyatt Teller, who you're probably not going to extend. You got Greedy Williams, who you don't even know if he's going to play football. Hopefully Grant Delpit could bounce back from an ACL injury. You got Jarvis Landry and OBJ making, 20% of the cap. If you don't do it all this year, the team, and you got, Davion Clowney on a 1-year deal. If you don't win it all this year, you might be looking at a completely different roster the next season. 1 year from now, we might be talking about no Baker, no Chubb, or no Denzel in a year from now. It's possible. It really is. I mean, I don't think that that's, likely. I think that we definitely keep one of those guys. Hopefully we keep 2 of them, and let's pray we keep all 3. But I think keeping all 3 is just as unlikely as having none of them. But I mean, we could be shedding Clowney after 1 year if he's hurt. We could be getting Ronnie Harrison might be leaving after this year. There's just, we got to go now. We got to just let's lock it up. I felt the same way with the Cavs, really. We were there every year, and we were lucky we were there every year. And thank God we just got one, because you see with the Indians, you see blowing a 3-1 lead, they've been competitive and they've been a team that's been properly run since, the early 2000s, and they blow a 3-1 lead in the World Series in 2016 and they've never been back. It's so hard to get back. It's so hard to, build legacies. That's why the stuff that Tom Brady does, multi Super Bowl quarterback winners. I mean, that's just crazy stuff right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all very plausible, So with that being said, Jeff, I'm sure you got everything out.
Yep, that's all good.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for watching. If you guys have not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for the notifications. Leave us a like and let me and Jeff know, what are your guys' thoughts? What's a failure of a season for you guys? Is it not making it to that AFC championship game? Is it winning only one game in the playoffs? Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of things that could be said as a failure. But also, again, I'll say it again, set your expectations high. No more of this, if we make the playoffs, great, that's awesome. No, we're no longer there. We made the playoffs last year. We won a game in the playoffs last year. It's time to set standards a little bit higher and start demanding a little bit more of your football team. So with that being said, thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.